don't even know what I was.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, everyone. This is the first time I'm saying hello since Heather hit record the first time. I'm here with James Hern. I'm so excited he's joining us. James is a really fantastic leader. He's building an incredible empire based out of Kansas City. He's the director of and the owner of the Hern Group. He and his brother have this, and James is kind of the integrator. And I've had the pleasure of spending time with him and his team, getting to know them a little bit and visiting and touring. And anyway, one thing that really stands out with James, and as you get to know him with me today, you're going to learn not only does he have a very special relationship with Mo, he has a very special relationship with God. And that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. So James, welcome.
Thank you, Missy. Pleasure to be here.
So we talked for a few minutes before we brought everyone in and went live. And one thing that's interesting is James was around when Mo first launched her book. Would you tell us a little bit about that story? Because that's incredible.
Sure. It's actually one of those times where I was able to see one of our leaders in our company be very, very real. And here's what happened. It was, she had just finished the book, and Michael and I had spoken to her several times, and there had been naysayers about her writing a book. And I know that's hard to believe, a successful woman like Mo, a wonderful Christian lady, great business person, very influential in our business, no doubt. And Michael and I wanted to go see her do this presentation at Family Reunion. The theater that she was in held just over 2,000 people. And Michael and I thought, hey, we're done with our class. We'll go in there a little bit early to get a great seat. So like we all do with those things. So we walk in and we notice up on the stage, the stage is backlit with our wonderful Keller Williams logo and kind of a cool color. And we notice Mo is standing there in the dark at the podium. And Michael and I are like, well, let's go up and say hello to Mo. When we approach Mo, she is visibly shaken. She's just a mess. And we're like, what's wrong? And she said, well, Satan's telling me no one's going to show up. Who wants to listen to me? Who wants to hear anything I have to say? What value do I have? What right do I have to speak into anyone's lives? And of course, we're just like, huh? What do you mean? And we could tell that she's just like all of us. We let sometimes Satan get into our head. And as little as it may be, it can certainly sway the greatest of the great. And it was really bothering her. And we had the opportunity. I asked her, can we pray with you? And so the three of us prayed right there on the stage. No one really in the building except a couple people from our team. And I told Missy, one of our team members, took a picture of that, and it's the silhouette of the three of us praying. And it was so cool, and she felt so much better afterwards. But then she brought down the house with that presentation. I told Missy the place was packed to the rim. I don't believe anyone got up, left. I was shocked. I'm looking around going, no one's leaving. She went 2 solid hours. Killed it, brought that book, and we know and love this book. We know and love Mo. We know and love her heart. And it just showed me that she's a human just like the rest of us. Sometimes we put our leaders on pedestals and think that nothing can touch them and nothing bothers them. They need God just like we do, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you said that in the chapter. Just a quick recap, Mo talks about when she gave her life to Christ, and there were 2 times really that just completely shook her faith. And one was when she took that college course on philosophy, and the professor was able to disprove everything in the Old Testament, and she didn't have her own knowledge and training and study under her belt to be able to refute any of that. And so she says in this chapter that she was actually, and think about Keller Williams and our culture and God Family Business, all of those things that we have as a foundation for our company. Mo was agnostic for 5 years. Mo was agnostic for 5 years. And so then she ended up giving her life to Christ. And there was a second time where her faith was really shaken. And that's when she lost everything. So I love hearing about the human part of Mo. Mm-hmm. And that even she questioned things and has to fight things. And it's fascinating to me. And
it's a daily battle. It's
Yeah.
where we have to be grounded in Christ, and we have to have a relationship with him, and we have to be daily visiting that. We can't visit it just on Sunday. We have to live it. We have to show, I know.
Or just Easter.
Or just Easter or Christmas, right? Like some folks. And I'm not judging those folks, by the way. I'm just saying, I can't live that way. Right. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for Mo. Doesn't work for anyone.
James, I want to dive into your relationship with God just a little bit. One thing James and I talked about too is there's this idea that for someone to have a really stellar testimony, there has to be something scandalous, this big period of rebellion or sin, or these circumstances where you just absolutely lose everything and have to start over. And a long time ago, James had a limiting belief that his testimony was just not very important. And this is exactly why he's the perfect person to talk to us on Keep the Faith. James, tell me a little bit about your spiritual journey and your boring testimony.
Sure. I made the huge mistake of thinking my testimony just wasn't too exciting. I can even remember where I was. We were on some kind of youth outing, probably college age, right at that fringe, and around a fire, and everybody's sharing their thing. And they come to me, and I'm like, well, mine, I just kind of have a boring testimony. I've kind of just lived a normal life, what I thought was normal. Little did I know I kind of had it pretty easy, right? And I wished I'd never said that, because then God let some things, just kind of happen in my life that got my attention, that turned every aspect of my life upside down, to where I will never say that again, because I can tell people, I just honestly believe you have to go through those things to be able to speak into people's lives, because you have to have had some type of a hardship to understand where people truly are, or they think you're too lofty, too perfect, too whatever, which is totally not true. And please don't think because I'd had this charmed life, I was thinking, oh, there was no sin in my life, because there certainly was. It just wasn't. I was a partier and I was doing drugs and all that kind of stuff. So God showed me in a very short amount of time that I did have a testimony, and that I needed to share with people wherever and whenever I got the opportunity. So that woke me up. I'll never go back. You and I were talking about, Steve, just don't say those things, because God will give you a testimony, and he'll make a big point out of it.
Right? Yeah, he sure was. So Steve felt that way. Steve was married before we were married, and he had an unfaithful spouse, and he has a pretty powerful testimony now. And of course he did before all of that too. But now he has the ability to speak life into people who are going through a divorce and different things, because he's been there, and it's hard.
And you have to understand, it doesn't have to be the exact situation. All it has to be is that God was with you through this thing, and he got you to the other side. And I'm about to tear up just because I'm thinking about a family that I sat around a dinner table with, and the husband was very much in tune with God's in control. He's got this. Their daughter has Rett syndrome, and she's outlived all the prognosis of that. And the mom just can't understand. She's fighting for, why would God let this happen? And we all want it to be easy, whatever it is. I don't want any pain for that little girl. I don't want any pain for that family. But I told her, certain things come into our life so we can speak life into other people's lives when these problems show up 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. Because it may not be a Rett syndrome, it may be cancer, it may be leukemia with someone with their child or something, but you can relate. You can sit there and speak truth into their situation and show them this is why the Bible is true. And this is where I am because of that. And this is how God got me through all of that. And each of us lives a different life out. I always equate it to this. If you've ever seen a beautiful tapestry like you would see hanging in a castle, and you're just mesmerized at how gorgeous they are, if you ever turn them over, they're hideously ugly. And that's what made them beautiful, was the master knew how to weave it perfectly. And it's ugly on the back. It's ugly through the start point to the end point. But when you turn it over and everybody looks back at it, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's perfect. And you wouldn't have it any other way.
I love that. That's so powerful. So let me ask a little bit. One thing we talked about too is constantly renewing your faith. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with God and what you do. I think one thing that a lot of people have trouble separating is religion and spirituality. Mm-hmm. I go to church every Sunday. We're heavily involved, and yet the magic happens with my relationship. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with God.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say my relationship can always get better. I don't want to be held up as the standard. Yet that's what you strive for. It's just like what we do for a living. You never truly master it, right? You just work to be better. It is about a relationship. It's not about being religious. It's not about quote unquote attending somewhere. It's about what are you doing with your life? People don't care what you know. People don't care what you quote. People watch you. They see how you live. And literally the most key people in my life, in my business life, they came to myself because they saw how you lived through all these different things. And you can't live that way unless you're daily renewing yourself. You're daily visiting scripture. You're daily praying for others. And yes, even the people that do you wrong, even the people that you personally don't like, right? You have to pray for those folks, and it's hard, but it makes you stronger. It centers you. It centers you in every decision that you make. Doesn't mean they're all going to be right? But it centers you. It makes you question and think about what you're doing. And then everything that I do is centered in that relationship. Every decision that I make, those that I love and care for, the things that I want to do to help others is centered in that relationship and grounded by my faith, if that makes sense. And that's how I renew. And then I serve on the praise team at church. I'm
so
the
you
guy.
can sing?
I can sing. Yes.
I'm a joyful noise person.
Understand. And it's all just a joyful noise to God. It's funny how though, when they're all mixed together, you can't really tell, right? It doesn't matter, right? So I teach Sunday schools, I teach small groups, I do Bible studies, all that kind of thing. Not because I think I have a lot to teach those folks, but because we know from our company teaches us, right? It's the same true at church. Teach it, you get better at it. Teach it, you know more about it. Teach it, you live it more, you can understand it more. And so that's what and why I do that. And I've seen it in my kids, the difference where they're at in comparison to where I would have been at their age. Pretty impressive.
So I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute because I didn't tell you to come prepared with this, yet I know you'll know. What is one of your favorite verses and why?
Oh, I'm going to cheat on this one.
Do not say Jesus wept. John 11:35 doesn't count.
No, but I'll tell you one that I literally, when I was thinking about this today, I was writing all these things down, and I was writing down because one of the questions in the guide was, what lessons would you use to mentor others about the faith? And a lesson that I would share, and it's a very, very short passage. And again, I'm not the one to be held up, but it's this too shall pass. And there's a whole lot of stuff going on right now that everybody's fearful about. And I shouldn't say everybody, but a whole lot of people are fearful about and scared over. And this too shall pass. It's going to pass, but it's the same is true of if everything is perfect in your life right now. This too shall pass. It's called life for a reason. If it wasn't, it would be called perfection. It would have some other title, but life in and of itself is everything that happens to us. And there are so many scriptures I shared with you. We all know that Mo Anderson and Ravi Zachariah were very, very close to each other. I literally had just finished in my small group just a few weeks ago his study on what is called everyday questions. And if you want to know how to talk to others in their situations, that's a great place to go. But we had just done that. He's the greatest apologetics I think that has ever lived. But to know that I'm the Google king, when I've got my Bible app on here and I've got Google, and when I'm thinking, where is it I find that? What do I need to tell people? How do I answer this? That's where I go. And so I know that's very, very short, but that's what I was focusing on just here recently with my team and different situations that I see people going through. And I'm the guy that for years, in my other life, my other business, I was called the preacher man. And not because I ever opened my mouth to preach at them or tell them, this scripture says you should, never that. It was because I had a Bible in my office that they knew I came in early every morning and read, right? And they made fun of me until they got to this point where there was something that needed to pass, right? There was something they needed to get through, and they needed somebody that they knew would care enough to say it's going to be okay, and here's how God's working through this, and let me pray with you, let me pray over you. I don't have all the answers, but God does, right? So you did put me on the spot with that one. So you got the short stick of that one for sure. So
well, look, you're live now. I can do with you what I want.
Yes, I should have known better.
I know. Rebellious at heart, guys.
Yeah. Trying to make me look bad. What can I say?
So talk to me a little bit about Ravi and the news that came out this week and some of the reactions and conversations you've had with Mo about that.
Well, they were super tight. Mo serves on his foundation. She's one of the board of directors there. And it hadn't really come up until a few years ago, if you remember, when we kind of shuffled Mega Camp to become Mega Relief. And Michael and I were supposed to meet with Mo and during Mega Camp. And she still wanted to get together. Well, Kelly's like, hey, James, waiting here. She's going to be here in a minute. And there were about 15 people in one of those big rooms that were empty at the Austin Convention Center. And took her a little longer. And she was texting me going, I'm on my way. I'm coming, because they bring them in the back way. And here she comes. And she looks like she's got the paparazzi like she's a movie star around her. Literally, there were like 3 or 4 cameras, like news cameras and lights, and a crowd of people just moving like she was the Beatles or something coming through there, And she makes her way over to us. And you think I'm mushy. My brother's the biggest sob bucket when you get to telling stories, right? So
yeah, I can see that.
So Mo comes up, giving us her normal kiss and hug and starts talking. And Michael starts telling her what a great example she's been in his life. And he starts crying, and he's telling her how he's just pouring his heart out to her. And she turned, and you all can picture her doing it. And she turns after he gets done. Did you get that? Did you get that? I want this played at my funeral. Do it again. She told Michael, do it again. But all those people were following her because of a documentary that was being done on Ravi Zachariah. And so this week, when I heard the news, I reached out to her. and they're close, and she was very shaken because this all just came about in the last few months, that he came with this aggressive cancer. And she's just, the earth has lost a very mighty soldier for Christ. And I told her, my wife told me, can you imagine the welcome in heaven that he's getting? All the people that he's turned. And in her book, in that chapter where she's talking about the student introducing him, that's what we all have to look forward to when we get to heaven. That student from Harvard going, he let me see Jesus because he came and refuted the lies that are told, the lies that Satan plants out there. He came and refuted that. That's the man that Ravi was. That's how he moved. And you saw in the book how he moved in her life and how God said you were going to support this man. And she did in a very, very great way, and still does to this day, even with him gone. She'll be keeping that legacy alive, which is just a legacy of love for Christ and for truth-telling and doing what we all should do anyway. It's about asking questions. It's letting them self-realize you may think you don't have any faith, but you have faith in something, and it needs to be in the right thing. And that's what those questions, those everyday questions I was talking about with Ravi, that'll get you there. It's so moving to know it, actually, to think that one of the leads in our company so loves Christ, who has personally told my wife and I that if we ever let them take God out of our business, that Keller Williams will crash and burn so fast, it would make your head spin. Those are her exact words. Yet to see her put her money where her mouth is, to do all those things, makes me feel like a small person. It makes me feel like, what are you going to do? What has God put on your heart? And God puts something on all our hearts if we have a relationship with him. And so, I'm sorry, long answer to that.
No, I love it. I'm so listening. One thing that came to mind as you were saying that is we're talking about the velvet hammer. Mm-hmm. And I think growing up, I had some misconceptions myself about Christianity and people of faith, and that they were pushovers, that you could just do anything. They were doormats. And Mo is such a great example of, oh no, you're not.
That's right. That's right. You don't have to be a doormat. The truth's on your side. You don't ever want to just beat people up to beat them up. You're respectful, and what she says, always be nice. You're supposed to be nice. Yet people don't like the truth. People don't always want to hear the truth. Yet we have to share the truth. And there is only one true north. There's only one truth. And so I'm proud to say that I have a leader in my company. I have more than one leader, right? That's what my company encompasses. And at the prayer breakfast, I got up and said that. I'm very proud to say that because it's who we are as a company. And I know there's some that it's not Jesus, right? But for Mo, it's Jesus. For me, it's Jesus. And that is the truth.
Well, guys, we've got about 4 more minutes. What questions do you have for James? Or what ahas or takeaways from this chapter? Or what about your faith? What do you do to renew your faith? Susan?
My faith is constantly being tested, but I live by the belief that God will never give me more than I can handle. But sometimes it's almost comical because it's like, what else can you throw at me? And I don't know who said this. I don't remember, but it's funny. It's if you're in hell, keep going. So sometimes I feel like I'm in hell, but I just push on through. And it's a belief and faith in God that gets you through.
I agree. Thank you for sharing.
The verse that I had picked out when Missy was asking James is what you just mentioned. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to man, and God's faithful. He won't let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are, he will provide a way out so you can endure it. That's the thing I constantly go back to. It's very similar to what James was saying. This too shall pass.
Yeah. And I love that, because I do hear some people say, God won't give you more than you can bear. Yes, he will. And that's why we need him.
Yeah.
He'll allow you to have more than you can
Well,
bear.
and you don't experience your biggest growth during the coasting times. You experience that growth and that buildup and that breakthrough when times are tough. And so if we're never ever tested, we don't grow.
Agreed. Dana?
My husband had a brain injury a few years ago. We are a KW Cares grant recipient. And I realized during that time that, so I used to say, you know, God will never give you more than you can handle. And during that time, I realized God will never give you more than he can handle. So sometimes we just have to let go and let him. And so that's my saying now. God will never give you more than he can handle. So just give it to him when it's too much for you.
I did it again where I talk when I'm muted. Heather's going to kick me. Kathleen, go ahead. It's not letting me unmute Kathleen.
Do it.
There we go.
So I like where it says on the last page that, you know, she says, when you keep the faith, there is no real fear. There's confidence and hope. This is the promise that you will be blessed. Keep the faith. And look how much Mo was challenged. You know, it took her years. Like they went from having everything to losing everything. And I think we all, right, all of us have been pretty low, right? And we keep getting kicked down. And just like the COVID-19, you know, there's some horrific stories out there. And just in Michigan this week, we had major flooding from dams breaking. And there's families that lost their homes. Like they literally just lost everything. It went away down in the water. And it gives me goosebumps just to know that God's still going to show up. So I'm on the culture committee. So we are forming, you know, kind of like a red day. We're collecting goods and whatnot. And we all still have our crazy COVID-19 stuff going on. But, you know, there's always crap that's happening to all of us. And it's fear or faith, right? In bold, you can choose fear or faith. And I know for me, you know, I know for my sister Susan, that foundation that we get to have in faith that Mo has installed in us in our culture and kept it relevant, right? It's relevant. And I'm like you, James, if she ever took God out of it, I'd be out of there, because that is the foundation of our company. It is the foundation of who can we bring to Christ, whether it be in our doings with our real estate clients, with our agents in our office. And I've had, in my 9 years at KW Lakeside, I have brought 3 people to Christ at my church and gotten baptized. If that's all I ever did, that's great. So yeah, Mo, what she represents and she installs and challenges all of us to do, not that you don't have to, but you know, we have that opportunity, and it's just amazing. And when you hold onto that faith, whatever that faith is, and God's relevant and is relevant in our lives, you know, it gives me goosebumps every time I go to family reunion.
Yep. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, James, thank you so much for coming. Do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share?
I would just say that I truly believe what I was saying, in the fact that whatever's going on, if you're in a bad way, I know Michigan's bad, Kathleen, lots of stuff going on there. There's different places. That's God will get you through. That's why God's there. And Dana, he is the one that gets us through. We don't do it. I can tell you, when people say he won't give you more than he can handle, I know it's a lie, because I need him every single day, and we all do. And in the small things and the large things, just keep pushing forward and sharing what you know with others and sharing your experiences. Dana, I would love to hear sometime about that whole story, because I'm sure it's amazing. I would love to hear that. So reach out to me sometime. I would love to share that. So thank you so much. But just keep the faith. It will be shaken. It will be tested. Just return to the Word and keep in prayer with Him, and all will be well. He will do a good work in you, to those that remain righteous in Him. And so simply just stay in the Word, stay in prayer, and love and care for each of you, and wish nothing but blessings on each of you.
James, it makes me think, so my favorite verse, not that anyone asked, is Romans 8:28. And it just, all of this, our discussion, makes me think full circle too. Everything comes together for good to those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. I'm so grateful for you. And I kind of want to log off and go have a little time in the Word.
I got my Bible.
Look, speaking of,
I'm going to read it right now.
I'm going to share a little nerd with you guys. I've had this Bible for 21 years, and I have, it went on a mission trip with me to Ukraine, and I am the person that had people sign it like it's a yearbook. Look.
Wow. That is so cool.
You guys still love me?
Absolutely.
If I'd stayed at home, my Bible was right on my desk at home.
Yeah.
I would have opened it up to what I was reading this morning. So
Yep.
I should have known you would ask me.
This is my roadmap right here. This is my only roadmap.
I love it. Well, friends, thank you so much for being here. And so on Monday, I've got a couple special guests coming, Brittany and Sandra, who have another Moes book club, and we decided to join forces. And so they're going to be with me today. And on Wednesday, Mo is here. So be sure in Time Block Wednesday, and we'll get to talk to the Velvet Hammer herself. You guys take care.
Bye. Have a good weekend. Happy Memorial Day.
You too. Bye.